My name is Zoe Clark. I'm Senior Self-Management Programme Officer at NASS, and today I'm joined by James Allen. Hi James, how are you?
Hi Zoe, I'm doing well, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. So James is an entrepreneur in chronic pain and also lives with Axial SpA. So he's kindly joining us today to talk about the Chronic Insights app that he developed. And we're chatting a little bit about why he developed the app, what the features are, and telling you more about it and how it can be helpful for people with chronic pain and with Axial SpA. So if you have any questions for James at all today, please do pop them in the comments. We'll have plenty of time at the end for a Q&A. So it'll be great to get your questions on the app and on his experiences with it. So before we get started, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, James?
Yeah, sure. My name's James Allen, and I live in Northumberland. I've grown up in the northeast of England, lived here all my life pretty much. I used to be an IT consultant, so most of my career has been in IT and software, which is what led me to creating this app, partly using those skills that I learned in that industry. I'm nearly 41, got my birthday coming up soon. Can't believe it, 41. Because I've had AS since I was 17, so it's a really long time I've had AS, and it's taught me a lot. I've learned a lot about myself and how to manage my pain and fatigue. So I enjoy exercising when I can, going for walks, cycling, and somatics. Because I know you've had Ian Young on a few times on NASS Facebook Lives. I'm actually
We
one of
have,
his
yeah.
students. I go to his class every week. I love it. I find it really helps me loosen up and helps my AS a lot.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. Yeah, his sessions are always really popular. And we've got another one coming up in a few weeks as well. So definitely let
Good.
everyone know about that.
Yeah, I highly recommend it to anyone who has AS. It just seems to work really well um, for me, and I think for a lot of people with AS.
That's great to hear. Well, thanks again for joining us today, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation. So for everyone who's just joining us, please do pop any questions in the comments and we'll be able to go through those towards the end of the session. And as always, the video will stay on our page afterwards. So if you can't join us for the whole chat, then you're welcome to come back later on and check out the rest of the video. And we'll also pop it on our website and our YouTube page as well with all of our Facebook Live sessions. So I'll just check if we have any questions coming in so far. Not yet. Hi to David and Helen who are joining us, and to B as well. Thanks for joining. So as we get started, you're going to be showing us a little bit about the app and the features shortly. But just as an introduction, do you want to tell us a little bit about your experiences with AS and why that's led you to making the app?
Yes, so as I mentioned, I've had it since I was 17, and since that time, it's gone through a lot of ups and downs over the years. It started quite gradually and quite slowly, so that I almost didn't realize how badly it was affecting me because I was going to university at the time, and I was starting to struggle a lot with just getting to lectures, getting up in the morning, doing work. And I was just trying to power through everything because, it was just this thing that was getting in the way of me doing what I wanted to do, studying and for a career. And it got to a point where I didn't know quite how to handle it and what to do. And I ended up going to a counselor. And I think that's when I first realized that I needed to ask for help more, because I found it difficult to talk about, especially when I was younger. Just talking about pain and telling people that I'm in pain was just really difficult for me. It was difficult to describe what it was like. I often felt like I couldn't communicate it very well. And I think because of that, I didn't really get onto biologics quick enough. I was in significant pain and probably understating it when I saw my rheumatologist, probably for the same reasons that that I found it just difficult to talk about. And then when I was on biologics, the first one worked really well. Really, it was fantastic. My symptoms almost completely disappeared, and I actually did the Great North Run up here in
Wow.
Newcastle twice. I ran it for NASS and raised a bit of money. But unfortunately, the first biologic didn't last forever. For me, it gradually wore off. And so I had to start trying different ones. And I went through this really long period of trying different medications. And it was really difficult to tell which ones were helping and which ones weren't. Sometimes, you know, because my symptoms were so up and down. And so, and at the time eventually I you know, I got into IT and I was being a consultant and traveling, and I was struggling with that as well, with meetings, and if I had to cancel things because of a flare up, I got really stressed about it, and that would actually add to the condition, just sort of made it worse. And so I was thinking about something else to do that fitted better with my AS. And I eventually decided on, because it kind of at the same time, it was just this coincidence that I was thinking about, well, how do I communicate better? How do I remember what my pain has been like, and how can I be more sort of truthful about it, even just to myself? How do I figure out if a new drug is better than the last one that I tried? And that's when I decided I actually started looking at symptom diary apps, but I didn't really like any of them that I found. And it sort of became this initially just a sort of side project. Let's try making my own, because I know programming be quite an interesting little project to do on the side. And it just sort of span out from there. I realized that I was really enjoying making the app. I thought it was really useful, especially this idea that I had about creating this 3D model that I'll show you later. So I ended up leaving my job and just starting my own company to make this app available to people. So that's kind of how it all started.
That's brilliant. And I can definitely relate to a lot of what you said there. And I know from speaking to a lot of people on the helpline as well, I've been in similar circumstances where it's really hard to talk about the pain you're experiencing and to know if things are helping or not, and to track that over time. It's really difficult. So how do you find the app is helpful for kind of giving people those conversations and monitoring things?
Well, the first time that I showed my rheumatologist a chart of my pain, it was really interesting, because I could see his eyes sort of lit up with interest, because I don't think he'd ever had a patient walk in with a chart before. And it sort of changed the conversation between me trying to describe things with words to us both looking at this chart there printed out, and I was pointing to things and explaining what, and he was asking me why did that suddenly increase at that point. And then I remembered, oh yeah, it's because my knee swelled up, because I would have forgotten to say that, because it was months ago.
Yeah.
And just the fact that he could see that the chart was so up and down, but it never went below like a 2 out of 10. There's something about that sort of that visual picture that just immediately explains so much more than I could do just with words on their own. And as I mentioned, this idea of showing pain visually, it turns out to be a really powerful thing. Like when I show these pictures, which I'll show you in the demo, to people who don't have chronic pain, who don't know what AS is like, I can show them these pictures and it immediately grabs their attention. And I think when they look at it, they immediately understand how much pain it is that it causes me, and how widespread it is. The fact that it's the whole spine, it's my hips, it's my neck, it's sort of all over. And there's something really powerful about images, I think, that just give you another way to describe what having AS is like.
Definitely. And yeah, I remember when we first chatted about the app and about, chatting to everyone through the live as well. It was interesting when you said about that, where your pain didn't drop below the 2. And I think it's really common that when we're talking to people who don't have the condition, you can almost forget to say that actually, yeah, for a lot of us, we have this baseline level of pain all the time. You can say, oh, I get flares in these areas, but sometimes you forget, oh, actually, yeah, it is that chronic pain, but if you've got that visual reminder, then you don't have to remember to all those little details like that.
Yeah, exactly, because it sort of becomes normal after a time, and it can be, something like that can be something that's so easy to not say to a doctor or to a rheumatologist, because it almost just becomes every day, because it is every day. But it's actually a really important thing to say, the fact that it's there. It's there all the time. Sometimes it can be mild, but it's still there. And so, yeah, that's when I realized that having just more information can be really helpful, especially if like me, you found it hard to communicate these things. And I think this is something that other people have experienced, because when I mention it, people say, oh yes, I do the same. It's when you go to the doctor and you're feeling good, you're having a good day, you can be sort of optimistic, and you can just tell them how you're feeling on that day. Because I'm fine, I'm managing, okay, this I'm getting on. And then the next day you wake up and you're really sore, and then you're just thinking, why wasn't I more honest, in the doctor's appointment? Maybe I'm not okay, I'm not doing fine. That was just a snapshot that they see. Because that's the problem, the doctor only sees this tiny little snapshot of you. It's when you walk into that doctor's appointment. But AS affects us all the time, and there's so much detail and so much more to that, and it's quite overwhelming to sort of summarize it all in 20 minutes or however long you've got.
Absolutely. Do you find with kind of tracking your symptoms with the app that it actually helps you prepare for those appointments better, so you can kind of prioritize and find what you want to discuss?
Yeah, it does. Because I used to try and make little notes with me before I would go in, just on paper. So I actually added that into the app as well, just a little note section. So I find that really helpful. Just something as simple as that, just little prompts and reminders to mention this thing that happened and that thing that happened, or I had a question about that medication. So yeah, definitely, and just looking at your charts and reviewing it, just make sort of grounds you in reality, like what's actually happening to you, so you can be more sort of honest in the appointment, I think.
Yeah, and it sounds like it really helps you get the most out of the appointment, because we get so little time in each appointment, and they may be, especially if you're on annual reviews, you get very few of them. So it's good to make the most of the time when you get it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we're going to go into the demo shortly, but I know that you wanted to explain that most of the app is free, but there are a couple of features that require a subscription. So do you want to explain that before we go into the demo?
Yeah, so I wanted to address this because a lot of symptom diary apps are free to use completely, free to download, free to use. And just being in the IT industry, I know that if an app is free, either it's publicly funded, like something like the NHS app is publicly funded, so there's no adverts or anything, and it's still free. But apart from that type of app, if an app is free to use, either one or two things are happening. Either you're being shown adverts, which is fine, but I personally just really hate adverts in apps. So I didn't want ads in my app. Or they're collecting your data and selling it to data brokers. That's another way that free apps make money. Because in really, there's no such thing as a free app. Somebody is paying for it because it costs tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of pounds to develop apps. And so that money has to be recouped somewhere. So I decided right at the start that I didn't want to show adverts and I didn't want to collect data and sell it. I just really wanted my app to be private. So all of the data remains private. I optionally collect some anonymous data so that I can show the pictures that you can see in the background and you can see on my website. So you can opt in to me collecting the pictures that you draw, because I want to be able to show people what AS looks like and what fibromyalgia looks like and what migraine looks like. And so the only way that I can make back the money that I've spent on making the app, which has taken me 4 years, is to have some sort of subscription that people pay for. I feel like it's a more honest way of making money. You know, I think if the 3D feature is worth paying for, that it's good enough, then it's worth paying for. So yeah, so there's a few features. There's the 3D feature that you can see in the background, and there's also the smartwatch feature where you can make a reading just using your watch. Those are paid for features, and the rest of it is completely free. So if you don't use those features, it's still a really useful app that you can use completely for free, and it's completely private and there's no adverts. But if you do want to use the 3D feature, then paying for it will help me, support me in making the app and maintaining it. So I just want to explain why that is.
Yeah, and that's really good to know sort of before seeing all the features. But I think especially with something where you're collecting health data, it's so important that you've made that decision to keep it private. Definitely, it's very sensitive data for people.
Yeah, because if you read if you actually read privacy policies of other symptom diary apps, which I actually do because I'm that kind of person, you
There's one
realize
of us.
and actually another thing that you'll notice if you use this app is you don't have to log in. So I don't even collect an email address, but most apps you do log in, you give your email address, which identifies you uniquely. And then it'll say somewhere, probably in the privacy policy, that we collect this data and we could sell it to people that you don't know. You know, it could be insurance companies, medical companies, pension providers, who knows? The problem is you have no idea. And that's one of the things that I really don't like about a lot of apps that are out there.
Absolutely. And finally, how can people get the app if they do like the features?
So you can search for it on the Apple App Store or on the Google Play Store. And if you just search for Chronic Insights, it'll come up as the first one.
Okay,
And you can get
brilliant.
it for phones and tablets.
Oh, perfect. And I've put a pinned comment in the video comments as well. So I popped your website there. And also you've kindly offered NASS members 50% off the subscription. So I've popped the code in there as well, but we can point people to that at the end as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant. So if you're happy, I'll hand over to you for the demo of the features, and then we can come
Great.
back and take anyone's questions afterwards.
Okay. Okay, so can you see that?
Yep, that's great, thanks.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'm going to just walk through setting up the app and kind of what it does and what it looks like. So when you first install the app, and this is what it looks like on a tablet. It'll look a little bit different if it's on a phone, but I thought showing you what it looks like on a tablet is a bit easier on a larger screen, so you can see what's going on. So when you first install the app, you get this option for accessibility settings, because I wanted to allow people to increase the font size and make it high contrast, so that if you do have vision problems, those options can just make it a little bit easier to use the app. And then you can select either a light theme or a dark theme. Some people prefer the dark because, especially at night, you don't want to be blasted with a lot of light. And then you just follow through the initial setup steps. And as I say, this is where you can opt in to optional data collection. So it's so you tick this box if you want to sort of donate the drawings that you make using the 3D feature. And as it says, it's 100% anonymous. All I collect is just the 3D data and the name of the health condition that you enter. I don't collect anything else about you. The only data that is required is crash data. So if there's a problem with the app, if an error happens, it does collect a little bit information about what device you're using and what happened when the crash occurred. And that just helps me fix problems. But again, that's all anonymous. So this shows you just all of the free features that you get with the app. And this shows you what the 3D feature does and what it looks like. So you can play around with the demo right at the start, just to experience what it's like. This is a 3D model, just showing some examples of what you could record. So this is showing joint pain data. This is showing hand pain, feet. Obviously, depending on your health condition, you might want to pick one or the other models. The head, so maybe if you've got migraines or head pain. But most people pick just the whole body. I find that's the most useful one to use. And then, as I mentioned before, you can use a smartwatch also to enter information. So it works with Apple Watch and with Wear OS. So if you have an Android tablet and a Wear OS watch, basically you can enter symptoms just on a number of 0 to 10, how you're feeling right now. So you can't do the 3D bit on the watch because there just isn't enough room on the screen, but you can quickly make a recording just by tapping the watch and then using the dial to set the value. And then that value goes onto your phone. So the first thing that you do is you enter what health condition you have. So usually for us, it would be axial spondyloarthritis. And then you can enter in any other health conditions that you have. But obviously, this can be used for anybody with chronic pain. So fibromyalgia or migraines or rheumatoid arthritis or whatever you have. So once you've done all the initial setup, this is what you'll see. And you can add, this is your diary. And currently it just looks empty because you haven't added anything yet. So the first thing that you want to do is add a diary item using that button. And this is the menu that you get. So you can actually record not only symptoms, but you can also record factors, which I call factors. They're things that you think might help or might trigger your symptoms, like exercise or diet or anything, any events that you want to track that might be interesting. You can also add medication, vitals like temperature or your weight. You can also track your mood. And if you're using a phone, you can also integrate fitness tracker information. So what I've done there is just gone to add a symptom, and then you can either pick from a list or you can type in at the top whatever you want to call your symptom. So if it's not in the list, just type what you want to call it. And then you pick the 3D model that you want to use. So there's a feminine and a masculine one. And as we saw before, there's ones for hands and feet and head. If you just want to record pain in those areas, those models can be easier to use. So I just pick the whole body one. And then you can decide how you want to show your symptoms, because symptoms aren't all the same. Sometimes, like with pain, you want to track it as continuous changes over time. But other symptoms might be things that just happen episodically. So they come on and then they go, and then they come on and then they go. In which case you would choose the other option, which will show your symptom as a bar chart instead of a line chart. So it just depends on how you want to track your symptom. I just wanted to give people different choices because people's needs are different. And then you can also decide whether you want to record how long your pain lasts. So you might want to record just that right now my pain's a 10 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10. But you might also want to record that lasted for 5 minutes or an hour. And then you can also, some symptoms like, I don't know, like maybe uveitis or something like that, you might just want to record that it happened and not the severity. You just want to say, this symptom happened right now. Because some symptoms don't really have a severity, they're either there or they're not. So once you've added your symptom, it'll appear here in your list. So I've added 2 here. You've got hip pain and just general pain, just as examples. And so to make a reading, you just tap the plus button next to it. So when you tap the plus button, you then get the option to set the time for the reading. So it defaults to right now, but if you've forgotten to make a reading, if you want to make it for like yesterday or something, you can change the date and the time. And then you set the severity of the reading of the symptom. So it might be distressing right now. And you do this just by turning the wheel. And you can change the wording by using the setting button at the top. So if you wanted to have your own scale, maybe a scale of 0 to 4 or 0 to 5, make up your own pain scale, you can do that. You can customize what the numbers say. And then you get the opportunity to draw the pain. So you can choose either from the skeleton view, where you can, so that's good for recording joint pain, which is mostly what I use it for. So you use the slider on the right to change the severity of the pain, and then you use the buttons in the bottom left to decide to change from moving the model or painting on the model. So you move it just by using your finger. One finger turns it, and then 2 fingers sort of moves up and down and left and right, called panning. It's like how you would use Google Maps. So if you ever use Google Maps with your fingers, you know, sort of pinching to zoom in, it works in exactly the same way. So you can record your joint pain and then hit save, and then it saves in your diary. And so this is my diary. I just wanted to show you what it would look like after you've been recording symptoms for a while. This is what you'll end up with, this big diary full of information. And so as you can see, I've been recording pain over a number of months. So you can see all the ups and downs and the flare-ups and sort of the shape of it. And I've also been recording other things like fatigue. So fatigue is one that I record as just discrete events. I just want to record that I felt really fatigued that day. So for me, I made that a bar chart. Recording headache, blood pressure, when I go cycling, my mood, sometimes I get stomach ache. When I do somatics, I record when I go out on a bike, my COVID vaccinations. You know, you can record anything that you want, basically. Like I say, it's just anything that you think might be relevant later, that you might want to look back on and say, did that affect my pain? So you can also view your diary as a story. So just as a sort of day by day diary. This is just another way of viewing it. Some people like to see just what happened day by day, and you can export everything to PDF. So all of these charts and things, there's an option somewhere to export it so that you can then print it out and take it to your doctor. And then we've also got the insights charts. So this is where you can just sort of play around with analyzing all the data that you've been recording. So you might want to, so you can pick whatever symptoms or factors that you have. And then, so for example, your pain, you might want to show it day by day, or you might want to look at the time of day. So this shows you sort of the severity that you've been recording according to the time of day. This is just your bar chart. So this is a bar chart of my pain. And as you can see, it's really erratic. It's really up and down. And so it can be difficult to see what's going on. So what you can do is you can go full screen. And then this is one of my favorite features is the smoothing. So you can smooth out the chart so that gets rid of all the noise and shows you the sort of the underlying trends that are going on. So this makes it much easier to see whether your pain has been gradually getting worse, or maybe it's gradually been getting better, which, as we were saying at the start, sometimes it can be difficult to tell. That's kind of was one of the main things that drove me to create this app, was I wanted a way to really know whether that new drug was actually helping or not. So you can change the smoothing using that slider at the bottom. I find that really, really helpful. And then, as we said, you can record anything that you want, you're cycling, whatever it is that you want to record. So you can overlay all these things onto the chart and see if there are things affecting other things. And then, as we said, notes. So you can add notes as well. So there's a little button just to add text. So you can just remind yourself of things to say to the doctor. And so this is the real interesting part of the app. So this is my heat map. So what this is the app takes all of the readings that you make over time, and it averages it together into what I call the heat map. So this is showing me, on average, what areas of my body am I recording the most amount of pain. So, and this, for me, this is the picture that I show to people when they ask me what's AS feels like. That's what it feels like. And so these are the individual readings that I've been making day by day. This is what it looks like over time. And this is something interesting to show people as well, just how it shifts and changes, and it's different every day. But when you take all of those readings and you add them together, that's when you get the heat map. And I didn't show this before, but you can also record on the outside. So if you want to record muscular pain, this is the other way you can record pain. You can just draw it on the outside of the body So this is really good for recording what happens to your muscles. So this is just playing through my timeline of all the different recordings that I've made. And so finally, this is the latest feature that I've added to the app. This is me doing a little demo that I did just a short while back in Newcastle, which shows this heat map using it's called AR, augmented reality. So it's just a way, it's another way to show you heat map. You can project it into real space using your tablet or your phone, and then you can sort of walk around it and you can show people different parts of the heat map, which is just a really interesting way to see your pain and to show it to other people. And as we mentioned, I know it's, people don't want to pay for apps, but if you do feel like the 3D and the watch feature is worth paying for, you'll help to support me maintaining this app and all the time that I've spent making it. And as a thank you and as an acknowledgement to the fact that I know with AS, I know from my own experience how difficult it can be to make money, to earn money. And I know especially now at the moment, it's difficult to afford things. So I've done this 50% off. So the code is NASS50. So if you put that in to the bit where you sign up for the subscription, that gives you an additional 50% off. So that becomes, if you're on iPhone, it's £15 a year. It's a bit cheaper on Android, £10 a year. Or you can just do the monthly subscription if you just want to try it for a month. And they both actually, I should mention, they both come with free trials. So you can try it for up to 14 days. Just try it out, see if you like it. If you don't like it, just cancel the trial and then continue to use the free features. And that's it. That's basically everything that I wanted to show you.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so helpful having that visual demo of it. And personally, I love that heat map. It's so interesting and it's great to be able to see, as you say, how things move around and change over time as well.
Yeah, I find those pictures are really powerful to show people. And that image, that heat map, is really interesting when I first saw that, because it's not that image isn't an image that I created. It's just because sometimes it's that part of my back and other times it's that part of my back, and then some days it's my hip, and sometimes it's all different every day. But then to see it all combined together into that picture of when I first saw that, it's like, yes, that's exactly what AS feels like. It was really interesting to see.
Yeah, because I imagine if someone said, "Oh, you've got to paint it yourself, how does it feel?" You'd think, "Well, where on earth do I start?" So for it to do it for you, it's really, really helpful.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And we've got a couple of people commenting that they've downloaded the app as you've been chatting. So that's really good. It'll be great to hear everyone's thoughts afterwards. Come back to the comments once you've had a play around with it and let us know how you found it. We've even had JC in Malaysia who has downloaded it and just wants to share with all their friends there as well. So that's great to hear.
Great.
And we had a question when we were advertising the session as well, which I think was really interesting. So it'd be great to get your thoughts on this. A couple of people were discussing how you get that balance between tracking your symptoms and also not focusing on your pain too much as well, trying to get that balance.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and it's one that I thought about a lot while I was making the app, because what I realized from actually using it myself is that sometimes if you are recording it every day, it can make you think about your pain more, which can be a negative. And so a lot of apps were kind of used to pinging up notifications and reminders, and they're constantly trying to grab your attention. I deliberately didn't put any of that into the app, so there's no reminders, there's no nags. Because I think if you're forgetting about your symptoms and you don't record it for a few days, that's probably a good thing. And I don't want to continuously nag you to record it. But on the other hand, I mean, the thing is, we're all different. Some people really like data and really like recording things and logging things. And so some people will happily just record everything in great detail. But other people don't enjoy that. And so maybe if you're that kind of person, just record the flare-ups. Just record the most significant things. Don't go overboard in recording every single little thing. Maybe just have one symptom, call it pain and maybe fatigue, and just record the broad strokes of what happens. And then, but the other thing that you can think about is maybe all you need is to record it every day for a month or for a couple of months, especially if you are going through the sort of trial period of a new drug, because that's when recording every day actually really helps. Because it's only when you record the good days as well as the bad days that you really get a true picture of whether your pain is getting better or worse. And so sometimes it is worth setting an alarm and a reminder, using your phone or some sort of alarm clock, just to remind yourself to make regular readings. So even if you're not experiencing a lot of pain, that's actually good to record sometimes, because it contrasts with the flare-ups, so that you know what's going on. And so that's actually what I've done. I've recorded my pain in great detail over several months. And now I don't record it every day. I just record significant events that happen. And then if I do suspect that maybe my symptoms are getting worse, maybe the biologic that I'm on is starting to wear off like the previous one did, then I can start recording my pain again. And I've got that benchmark from before that I can compare it against. And then I know whether it really is getting worse or whether it's just me, just going through a bad patch, or it just gives me a more objective baseline to record it against. So there's all sorts of different ways you can approach it. And I encourage people to think about it. Don't make it a burden, because, we already have a lot of burdens with this disease. So the last thing you want to do is add to one. Just do what feels comfortable for you. Think about just recording for a short period of time if it becomes too much. And yeah, if you are going through a particularly troublesome time, maybe it is worth recording it in more detail, because then you've got more information to go on. So it's a really interesting question. And there's not really any simple answer, but those are some of my thoughts on that.
That's been really helpful, and I like that it is finding what works for you at that time as well. And like everything with this condition, it changes over time. So just, yeah, even your approach to how you're tracking it is naturally going to change as well. That's really helpful.
And actually, it's the reason that I created the watch companion, because I wanted to make it as easy as possible. Because when I started the app, I was in significant pain for long periods of time, and so I'd just be stuck in bed or stuck on the sofa, and I didn't really want to move very much. And so I had this idea of, well, if you actually could just use the watch, because you've always got your watch on. Sometimes you've left your phone in a different room. I just wanted to make it as easy as possible. So that's why there's that sort of smartwatch element of it as well.
That's brilliant. That actually leads us on to the other question we had from Helen was she just wanted to clarify, is it compatible with all smartwatches or just Apple?
So it's only with Apple Watch and with it's a sort of a range of smartwatches called Wear OS. So no, it's not compatible with all smartwatches. You just if you check, if you do have a watch, just check whether it's either an Apple Watch or whether it's Wear OS. So that's sort of the Android. It's Google's brand of smartwatches. But if it's not Wear OS, then it won't work.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. And at the moment, I can't see any other questions coming in. So do feel free to pop any more questions in. I'll keep an eye on the comment section over the next few days as well. So if we get any extra ones from anyone catching up after the live, then hopefully you'd be happy for us to pass those on, James.
Yeah, absolutely. I encourage all my users to email me with any questions or problems. Sometimes the 3D thing doesn't work on some devices. I found that's one thing that's probably worth mentioning. If the 3D doesn't work, I have had a few people. It seems to be with a lot of Samsung devices. For some reason, 3D isn't working. So if you do have that problem, it'd be really helpful to know what kind of device it is, because I'm trying to figure out which devices it's not working well on. But
Okay,
yeah,
brilliant.
it's always interesting to hear what other people think of it, because I try to improve it as much as I can.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And you can tell a lot of work and thought has gone into it, and really appreciate your time sharing it with us today. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, it's been really fun, and I'm really interested to see what people think of it.
Yeah, it would be great. I'll people feel free to come back and add your comments after you've had a few weeks of trying it out and let us know how you find it. And yeah, do send James your feedback as well. That's brilliant. So before we finish up, were there any final thoughts, James? Anything to add? We've covered lots.
Yeah, well, I've actually started recently doing poetry. Because yeah, the app is sort of, the majority of the work is done. I'm sort of maintaining it and doing little tweaks and bits and pieces here and there. But I started looking for the next thing to do, and I've actually started writing poetry about chronic pain and chronic fatigue and living with arthritis. So I'd be interested to get feedback about that as well. You can check it out on my website. I call it Poetry for Spoonies. So you can go to my website, poetryforspoonies.com. Got some poems up there. It really helps to get feedback because I'm just starting out. I've not done poetry before. So it really helps to get people's feedback and opinions and which ones they like, which ones they don't like. I just wanted to just help express what it's like living with a chronic illness, and I found poetry is really, it's a really good way of expressing things that aren't easily expressible in words, just by talking to people. So be really interested to hear what people think about that. And I'm on Instagram as well. So I've got a couple of Instagram accounts. There's one for Chronic Insights, so that's at Chronic Insights, and one for my poetry, that's at Poetry for Spoonies.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And yeah, I definitely would say from reading them, I wouldn't say that you're new to poetry, that I find them really good. And yeah, definitely exploring things that I think are quite difficult to talk about. So it's, yeah, really interesting.
Oh, thank you very much.
That's right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And thanks again, James. That was fantastic. And I'll keep an eye on the comments over the next few days. So if anything else pops up, then for people watching on catch up, then I'll let you know. And just to let everyone know that our next session is going to be next Wednesday at 1 p.m. and I'll be leading a session talking about how to manage your condition when you live on your own, because I know this can be quite a tricky thing for some people to cope with their symptoms as well as day-to-day life. So I'll be trying to give some really practical tips for that. So thanks again, everyone, for getting involved and joining in, and hopefully see you all next week. Take care.